Growing up, I learned one lesson very quickly. In our house, love wasn't something you earned. It was something you were born with. My sister Marissa had it. I didn't. Marissa was the miracle baby. That's what everyone called her. I came first, 3 years earlier, but I might as well have been invisible from the day she showed up. My parents had 3 miscarriages after me, and when she finally arrived, all pink and loud and healthy, they treated her like some kind of divine reward. It didn't matter that I was still there, breathing, wanting. I was just the placeholder, the warm-up act, the proof their bodies could try again and get it right this time. By the time I was 7, I understood what roles we played. Marissa would scream in the grocery store until she got the cereal she wanted. I'd be the one who quietly put mine back. She'd break something and cry. I'd get blamed for not watching her closely enough. She would throw a tantrum, and my mom would pull her into her arms, kiss her forehead, and say, "She's just tired." I once cried because Marissa hit me with a hairbrush, and my mom snapped, "Stop being dramatic." No one ever told me I was bad. Not directly. But it was in the way they looked through me. The way they lit up when Marissa walked into the room, even when she was covered in mud and dragging in chaos behind her. It was in the way my dad used to say, "Your sister's special. Be patient with her," as if I was the burden for needing fairness. I did everything I could to earn their attention. Straight A's, perfect attendance. I got into the gifted program, made it to the regional spelling bee, got student of the month twice. They came to one award ceremony, late, and left right after Marissa complained that she was bored. I started shrinking myself without realizing it, not talking about my day, not bringing home art projects, not even asking for help with homework. Marissa failed math twice and got a private tutor. I got a lecture about independence when I asked for a calculator. When she turned 16, they handed her the keys to a new car. Not brand new, but shiny, white, and untouched. Something she didn't even ask for. I got a used bike from a garage sale for my 16th, even though I was working part-time at the library to help with bills. "You're so mature," my mom said. "You don't need all that." I wasn't mature. I was tired. I was tired of feeling like a ghost in my own family. When I finally moved out at 19, nobody cried. Not even Marissa. My mom helped me pack, gave me a hug that felt like a favor, and reminded me to call sometimes. I did, for a while, but the conversations were always about Marissa, how she was doing, what she wanted, what I should be proud of her for. Eventually, I stopped calling. It took them 2 full months to even notice. And even then, it wasn't a "how are you" or a "we miss you." It was my mom leaving a voicemail asking if I could help Marissa build her online portfolio for a photography class she just started. I hadn't spoken to her since Christmas. It was always like that. Anytime they reached out, it had strings attached. Not the kind you untangle, the kind that pull you back in just enough to remind you that you're only valuable when someone else needs something. Not because you're loved, not because you're missed, just because you're convenient. I never responded to the voicemail. I was living in a studio apartment at the time, working long hours in an office downtown. Nothing glamorous, data entry and admin work mostly, but it was mine. I had my own key, my own dishes, my own silence. No one walking into my room without knocking. No one screaming because I touched their makeup bag. No one reminding me, even in the smallest ways, that I was never the favorite. Marissa dropped out of that photography class after 2 weeks. She decided she wanted to be a dog groomer instead. My mom updated me about it through a forwarded email chain with a subject line that just said LOL. I didn't laugh. I closed the email and sat with this weird mix of relief and guilt. Relief that I didn't have to pretend to be supportive anymore. Guilt that I wasn't pretending. It went like that for years. Every once in a while, I'd get a message from my dad, "Come visit, kiddo," but he never followed up. My mom would send holiday cards with photos of Marissa holding their golden retriever in matching outfits. No "wish you were here," no "hope you're okay," just smiling proof that their golden child was still shining. And then one day, everything changed. I was 28 when my mom called. Not texted, not emailed, but actually called, and left a shaky voicemail. Her voice cracked halfway through like she'd just finished crying or was trying not to. She didn't say much, just, "Call me back. It's serious." I didn't know what to think. For a second, I thought someone had died. It wasn't death, not yet. It was Marissa. Her kidneys were failing. I sat on the edge of my bed listening to the voicemail over and over. My first thought wasn't concern. It wasn't even shock. It was, of course it's Marissa. Of course the only reason they'd reach out with urgency was if something had happened to her. Not if I'd been hit by a car. Not if I'd been laid off or hospitalized or evicted. Only Marissa could send this family into a spiral. Still, I called back. My mom answered immediately like she'd been hovering over the phone for hours. She launched straight into it. No, "How have you been?" No acknowledgement that we hadn't spoken in almost a year. Just, "Marissa's kidneys are shutting down. Stage 4. They're saying she needs a transplant." Her voice wavered like she was barely holding herself together. I wanted to feel something. But all I felt was that same old hollowness. I already knew what she was going to say next. "You're a match." That's the first sentence that came out of her mouth after the long pause. Not, "Would you be willing to get tested?" Not, "Would you consider it?" Just, "You're a match," like we were confirming a dinner reservation I'd already agreed to months ago. She didn't ask if I had time. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't even pretend like this was a favor. It was a statement. Clear, sharp, and impossibly heavy. I didn't respond at first. I just held the phone to my ear and let her keep talking, hoping she'd fill the silence with something human, something soft. Instead, she filled it with logistics. They ran some preliminary tests. "Remember when you went to urgent care over the holidays? We had them pull your labs. I know it's kind of backwards, but we were desperate. You and Marissa have the same blood type, same antigen markers. The doctors said you're a perfect candidate." I felt like I was listening to a stranger. No, not a stranger, a collector. Someone laying claim to something I hadn't offered. I hadn't even been sick that day. I went to urgent care for a scratch on my arm that looked mildly infected, and Marissa had insisted on driving me there after dinner. I thought it was weird at the time, her being helpful, but I chalked it up to the wine and the post-holiday high. Turns out that little detour was just a front, a way to get my consent without me even knowing I was giving it. I said, "You tested me without asking." She replied, "It wasn't malicious, we were desperate, she's in pain." I stared at the ceiling of my apartment and felt the weight of that old familiar pressure pressing down on my ribs. I could barely breathe. I could hear my mother's voice on the phone, still explaining, "You're the only family match. We've checked everyone. Cousins, extended relatives, no one else is viable. It has to be you." That word echoed in my brain. I said, "I need time." She hesitated. "We don't have time, she's getting worse." That's when it hit me. This wasn't a request. It was an expectation. They didn't see this as me helping. They saw this as me fulfilling my role, the overlooked daughter, the one who never complained, the one who quietly gave and gave and gave while Marissa took and demanded and failed upward. "She's only 30, my mom whispered, like it was a tragedy unique to her. "She didn't do anything to deserve this." And what? Did I deserve to be mined like spare parts? Did I deserve to be the safety net they only acknowledged when it was the last option on the table? I told her again. I need to think. She didn't argue that time. She just said, "Okay," and hung up. Not even 5 minutes later, Marissa texted me for the first time in nearly a year. It said, "Thanks in advance. I'll owe you forever." That was the message. Not a voice call, not even a voice memo. Just 12 words and a yellow heart emoji. Like I'd just agreed to grab her a coffee, not give her a vital organ. I stared at the text for what felt like a full hour. I kept rereading it, waiting for a follow-up, an apology. Hey, I know this is a lot, something, but that was it. She didn't ask me if I was okay. She didn't ask how I felt about the idea of giving up part of my body to her. She didn't acknowledge that we hadn't spoken in months. Just that one line, confident, presumptive, and completely void of any self-awareness. That was the moment I knew she thought it was already done. Marissa never learned the word no, not really. Whenever my parents told her she couldn't have something, she'd scream until she got it anyway. And over the years, the screaming changed forms, from tantrums to crying fits, to guilt trips, to full-on manipulation. But the result was always the same. She got what she wanted. I don't think it ever occurred to her that this might be the one time her charm wouldn't work. I didn't reply. I didn't owe her that. The next few days were heavy, not in a dramatic life or death way, just in that slow, smothering kind of way that makes you feel like you're walking through water. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't sleep without waking up at 3 a.m. drenched in sweat. I kept picturing myself lying in a hospital bed, groggy and bleeding, with my family hovering over me, smiling, thanking me, calling me brave, only to disappear again the second Marissa was out of danger. I talked to my best friend about it. She said, "You don't owe them your body." And I said, "But what if she dies?" She paused. Then she said, "And what if you do this and nothing changes? What if they take the kidney and go right back to pretending you don't exist?" That part stung the most because it rang true. My parents didn't reach out to rebuild a relationship. They weren't calling to make amends. They didn't care that I'd been left out of birthdays and holidays for the last 5 years. They didn't ask how I was doing or if I needed anything. They weren't showing up for me, they were showing up through me to get what they needed for Marissa. It was like being the power cord to someone else's device. I took 3 days off work and drove to the beach, left my phone in the glove compartment, sat in silence, and watched the waves crash over and over again. I tried to picture what it would feel like if I said yes, if I let them prep me, if I signed the forms and laid back on that cold metal table, if I woke up stitched together, empty, sore, and suddenly disposable all over again. I couldn't do it. Not yet, maybe not ever. And I think, deep down, I already knew what that meant. 3 days after I got home from the beach, my inbox exploded. It started with a tag on Facebook. A mutual from high school shared a post with my name in the comments. At first, I thought it was a birthday reminder I'd missed or some nostalgic photo from prom. But when I clicked it, my stomach dropped. It was a picture of Marissa. She was in a hospital bed, all dolled up, makeup flawless, hair curled at the ends, a designer hoodie draped over her shoulders. She was holding up a sign that read, "Fighting for my life. My sister is a match. I hope she chooses love." My full name wasn't in the post itself, but the caption made it clear. Sometimes family can save your life, if they choose to. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Tucker kidney failure Dr. sisters by blood. And just like that, it spread. The comments were flooded with sympathy. People I hadn't spoken to since middle school were chiming in with, "Praying for your donor to step up," and "Family over everything, stay strong." And beneath those, snarkier ones that bit just a little too hard. "Can't believe someone would hesitate to save their own sister. Blood doesn't mean anything to some people, huh?" I didn't even get the chance to tell my side, because by the time I found the post, the narrative had already taken shape. I was the coward, the selfish sister, the cold-hearted woman letting her baby sister slowly die while sipping oat milk lattes and talking about boundaries. It didn't take long for the text to start. Aunt Sylvia messaged me a Bible verse about sacrifice. A guy I used to date sent me a one-line text that said, "You good?" Like he didn't already know. Even my boss pulled me aside and asked if everything was okay at home, her tone a little too knowing, like someone had forwarded her the post. I wanted to scream. Not because I was ashamed, but because I was trapped, completely and publicly backed into a corner I hadn't even walked toward. I hadn't agreed to this. I hadn't given consent to be named, and I sure as hell hadn't agreed to have my medical decisions turned into some viral sob story. Marissa didn't call me, didn't text, Didn't say a word beyond that single emoji-ridden message days ago. She just let the internet drag me. She let strangers turn me into the villain of her story and smiled through the sympathy like it didn't cost her a thing. And maybe it didn't. Maybe she believed, truly believed, that she was entitled to my kidney. That public guilt was just a tool she was smart enough to use. My parents never corrected the post. They never issued a statement or pulled it down or told people to stop attacking me. They let it sit there racking up likes, hearts, reposts, letting the entire world believe their firstborn daughter was a monster in disguise. That night, I turned off my phone. For the first time since this whole thing began, I considered going no contact permanently, not just emotionally, but legally. I didn't sleep the night after she posted that photo. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of traffic outside my apartment window. I kept thinking, she made me the villain, on purpose, not accidentally, not out of panic. It was calculated, crafted, a perfect little guilt trap, wrapped in hashtags and hospital gowns, carefully posed to make me look like I was standing by while she died. And people believed it, because why wouldn't they? No one sees the scapegoat. No one questions the golden child, especially not when she's smiling bravely through tubes and IVs and talking about hope. I stayed off social media for 2 days, didn't open any apps, didn't read a single message, but even then, it found me. My coworker pulled me aside at the end of the day and said, "Hey, if you ever want to talk about your sister, I'm here." She didn't say it with judgment. She said it gently, but it still felt like being slapped, because that meant even people outside my circle were seeing it, reading it, forming opinions about a life they knew nothing about. I didn't owe anyone an explanation, but I still wanted to scream. Instead, I emailed my mom. Just 2 lines. "You knew she would do this, and you let it happen." She didn't reply. Not right away, anyway. The next day, she sent back a full paragraph. One of those carefully worded, performative texts she always used when she was trying to look innocent. "We didn't think it would blow up like this. She's scared. We're all scared. She's not trying to hurt you, she's just trying to survive. Don't make this about yourself. Don't make this about myself." That was always the rule growing up. Marissa got the spotlight. Marissa got the attention. If I so much as coughed during her piano recital, I was accused of trying to steal her moment. When I got my college acceptance letter, my mom skimmed it and immediately asked if Marissa had gotten any replies yet. Now I was literally being asked to give her a body part, and I was still being told not to make it about myself. I sat with that text for hours. I wrote out a reply and deleted it 5 times. Eventually I wrote, "I have no problem being her match. I have a problem being her plan." I didn't send it. What was the point? They didn't want the truth. They wanted compliance. That same night, I got an email from a woman named Janelle, Marissa's best friend from her makeup school phase. We hadn't spoken in years. She wrote, "Hey, I know things are weird right now, but Marissa really needs you. You're the only one who can help her. Please don't let pride get in the way." Pride. That's what they thought this was? Like I was holding a grudge over stolen toys or teenage insults. Like this was about ego instead of survival. Mine. I closed my laptop, sat in the dark, let the silence crawl over me like a weighted blanket. And for the first time since I got the call, I let myself say it out loud. I don't want to give her my kidney. 2 mornings later, I woke up to my name in the headline of a GoFundMe. Not literally. She didn't put my name, but she may as well have. The title read, "Help Marissa get the kidney she deserves." I read it 3 times before I could even process it. Get the kidney she deserves. As if kidneys were rewards. As if organs were given out to people who cried prettily and curated their victimhood just right. As if I was the one committing a crime by not laying down and letting them carve me open. There were photos. Again. This time even more dramatic. Marissa curled up under a blanket, looking frail. Her boyfriend holding her hand at her bedside. One of our old family photos thrown in for emotional manipulation. A Christmas pic where I was cropped out of the center and shoved to the corner like a piece of furniture. The page description started with a story. Our sweet Marissa is battling kidney failure. At just 30 years old, she's facing the unthinkable. While a family member is a viable match, they are currently choosing not to proceed. We believe in hope. We believe in second chances. This GoFundMe is to cover future donor matching, surgery costs, recovery, and medical accommodations. She didn't name me, but every single person reading that would know. And it wasn't just a fundraiser. Like, it was a campaign, a narrative, a weapon wrapped in pastel colors and soft fonts. Within 6 hours, they had raised $4,000. By the end of the day, it was at $7,800. Comments started pouring in, praying she gets the help she needs. I would give you mine if I could. No one deserves to be abandoned by their own family. Abandoned. That word hit hard, because that's what I'd lived through for 30 years. Every single family gathering I wasn't invited to. Every vacation Marissa got. Every time my mom forgot my birthday but posted about Marissa's a week in advance. I was abandoned, quietly, slowly, by people who only knew how to take. And now they were framing me as the heartless one. I got a text from my cousin Lily, the only family member who ever saw things clearly. She wrote, "This is disgusting. I'm so sorry. I'll help you respond if you want to." I didn't know what to say. I didn't want to respond. I didn't want to write some counter-explainer begging people to understand my side. This wasn't a debate. It was my body, my life. I hadn't even said no officially, but they weren't waiting for that. They decided I already had. They'd turned my silence into cruelty and turned their desperation into righteousness. I called my mom and left a voicemail. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I said, "Take it down, all of it, or I'm getting a lawyer. I never consented to any of this." She didn't call back, but the GoFundMe got updated a few few hours later. We've been asked not to name names or share further details, but we still need your support. Please keep sharing. They were doubling down, and I was done playing nice. I wasn't bluffing when I said I'd get a lawyer. I spent that night researching privacy laws, donor consent, HIPAA violations, anything I could find that would prove what they were doing wasn't just unethical, it was illegal, or at least enough to scare them into stopping. I didn't want to actually sue my own family. I just wanted it all to go away. The fundraiser, the whispers, the pressure. I wanted to rewind to before I ever answered that damn phone call. By the next morning, I had a consultation booked with a medical rights attorney. It cost me $85 for 30 minutes, but it was worth every penny. I laid it all out, the secret lab testing, the social media smear campaign, the GoFundMe, the emotional manipulation, all of it. She didn't even blink. You didn't sign anything, correct? She asked. No. And you never gave verbal consent? Never. She nodded. Then you're not obligated to do anything. The testing was unethical but not illegal unless they used your name to request it without a valid power of attorney or forged your signature. But we can draft a cease and desist letter regarding the GoFundMe and any continued public defamation. Defamation. That word made something inside me relax. Like for the first time, someone was calling this what it actually was. The attorney sent over a basic draft that afternoon. I printed it out, signed it, and emailed it to my parents and Marissa. The subject line was simple: legal notice, urgent. I didn't explain. I didn't soften the language. I just attached the letter and closed my laptop. That night, the phone rang twice, once from my mom, once from my dad. I didn't pick up either. I was done giving them access to me when it only ever meant one thing: extraction. They didn't want to talk. They wanted to bargain, or guilt me, or scream. I wasn't interested in any of it. Then came the third call, from Marissa. I hadn't heard her voice in over a year. This time I answered. You're seriously lawyering up on your own sister? She snapped, skipping even a fake hello. You turned my life into a headline, I said. Her voice dropped low and cold. You think I wanted this? Yes, I said. I think you wanted attention. I think you wanted people to feel bad for you. I think you wanted a kidney, a stage, and applause, in that order. She was quiet for a moment. Then, you've always been jealous of me. That actually made me laugh. A short, bitter, stunned kind of laugh. Jealous of what? I said. That you never had to earn anything? That you burned through every opportunity our parents handed you while I had to scrape for basic respect? She didn't respond. So I said the thing I'd been holding in since the day my mom told me I was a match. I'm not giving you my kidney, Marissa. There it was. The silence. The truth sitting between us like a bomb that had just gone off. You'll regret this, she finally whispered. You'll wake up one day and wish you did something when you had the chance. I didn't say I already regret ever being related to you, but I thought it hard. Then I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for protecting myself. After I hung up on Marissa, I stood in the middle of my apartment and realized I had no idea what to do next. Not legally. I'd already handled that. I mean, emotionally, physically. Like, what do you do after telling your entire family you're not going to save the one person they've been worshiping for 3 decades? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone across the room like I always imagined I might if it ever came to this. I just stood there, still, quiet, hollowed out in a way that didn't feel dramatic. It just felt final. They think it's just a body part. That's the part that ate at me the most. They truly believe this was just surgery, just logistics, like I was booking a haircut or filling out a vacation request form. No one ever asked what it meant for me, what it would cost me to let them open me up and take something I would never get back. I read stories. I found articles and message boards from actual kidney donors. Some were positive, sure, but some weren't. Fatigue that lasted for months, nerve pain, digestive issues, complications during childbirth years later. No one talks about that. Everyone just assumes you bounce back and glow with the satisfaction of doing the right thing. But what if the right thing is keeping your body whole because no one else ever protected it? What if the right thing is finally choosing yourself? 2 days passed with no word from my parents, no calls, no emails, just silence. But I knew better than to think that meant it was over. On the 3rd day, I got a group text. It was from my dad. He never sends group texts. He's the kind of man who calls instead of replying to birthday messages, who types with one finger and signs his texts Dad like I don't have his number saved. But there it was. Family meeting, Sunday 2 p.m., you need to be there. No greeting, no request, no context, just an order. I didn't respond. I stared at it for a full 10 minutes, debating whether I should show up or just block the number entirely. But something told me they weren't going to let this go. Not quietly, not respectfully. And I was done being blindsided. So I replied, I'll be there, but I'm not changing my answer. He didn't write back. Sunday came. I drove to my parents' house for the first time in almost a year. The driveway was full. Marissa's car, my aunt's car, even Uncle Ray, the one who always used to say, that one's a fighter, about me like it was a flaw. I parked across the street, sat in the car for a while with my engine still running, hands gripping the steering wheel like I was about to launch into battle, because I was, not just against them, against decades of learned silence. I walked through the front door and immediately knew what this was. It wasn't a meeting, it was an intervention. Only instead of trying to save someone from self-destruction, they were trying to pressure me into self-sacrifice. The living room was full. My parents sat stiffly on the couch, hands clasped. Marissa was in the recliner, looking appropriately pale, dressed like a sickly Victorian orphan, with a hoodie pulled tight and a blanket around her shoulders. My aunt and uncle stood behind the couch like backup singers in a band no one asked for. And there was one chair left, dead center, facing all of them. I didn't sit. My dad spoke first. Thanks for coming. I nodded but didn't speak. Then my mom. We just want to talk. About what? I said, even though we all knew damn well what. Aunt Sylvia jumped in. About family, about doing the right thing, about second chances. There it was again. The right thing. Their favorite phrase, suddenly thrown around like it wasn't entirely subjective, like it didn't change depending on who they needed to guilt. I crossed my arms. I already gave you my answer. You gave us silence, my mom said quickly, a little too quickly. You disappeared. Then you sent threats. Legal boundaries, I corrected. Not threats. You don't get to weaponize my body and paint me as the villain without consequences. Marissa coughed lightly into her sleeve. It was so soft it sounded fake, but everyone looked at her like she'd just started bleeding from the mouth. My dad reached over and squeezed her hand. Look at her, he said. She's dying. I am looking, I replied. I've been looking for 30 years. That landed like a slap. My mom blinked hard. Marissa didn't move. My aunt pursed her lips and shook her head. I don't know what this is about, my uncle said. You've always been distant, but this is cruel. That word again, cruel. To them, my no was an act of cruelty. Not the years of emotional neglect, not the constant favoritism, not the way they only remembered I existed when they needed something. No, the cruelty was me, standing here, refusing to be cut open on command. I'm not giving her my kidney, I said, calmly, flatly, like I was reading the weather report. But why? My mom whispered. She's your sister. I looked at Marissa. She's never acted like one. Marissa finally spoke. Her voice was raspy, low. You want me to die? No, I said. I want to stop dying for this family. Everyone went quiet. Dead waited silence. Then my dad stood up slowly. His face hardened. If you walk out of here, don't come back. Don't call. Don't show up at funerals. Don't pretend you're family when it's convenient. I nodded once. Sounds fair. I turned around and walked out. No one followed me. No one stopped me. And that was the most honest thing they'd ever done. I thought I'd feel something big after walking out. Anger, relief, heartbreak, anything. But it wasn't big. It was dull, numb, like standing in a hallway after someone slams a door. You hear the echo, you feel the vibration, but mostly you just stand there, blinking at the silence. I sat in my car for a long time, parked in front of the house I grew up in, staring at the porch light flickering above the door like it couldn't decide whether to stay on or give out. That's how I felt too. I didn't cry on the drive home, didn't blast music or call anyone. I just drove with the windows rolled down, let the air hit my face, and tried to imagine what life would look like without them in it. Not just the emotional fantasy of being done, but the real, full cut. No texts on birthdays, no calls when someone dies, no more recycled apologies, just silence. And the longer I thought about it, the more peaceful it sounded. The next morning, I woke up early and made pancakes. That sounds dumb, but it mattered, because I didn't make them for anyone else. I didn't ask myself what Marissa would want. I didn't hear my mom's voice in my head scolding me about calories. I just poured the batter, flipped the cakes, sat on my balcony, and ate like a human being who deserved to feed herself. That night, I posted something for the first time in weeks. Not a rebuttal, not a public defense, just a photo of the ocean with a single caption. Choosing peace isn't cruel. I turned off comments. I didn't owe anyone a conversation. Still, people found ways to insert themselves. DMs from old acquaintances. Saw your post? Everything okay? Some were genuine. Some just wanted drama. I ignored them all. Then I got a message from Lily again. My cousin, the only one who ever really saw me. She sent a screenshot of a group chat without me in it. Apparently, the family was already spinning a new version of events. She was always different, cold, distant. Maybe this is just who she is. We tried everything. She pushed us away. Let's focus on Marissa now. That's what matters. No one said, we hurt her. No one said, we failed her. Just more versions of the same story. The one where I'm the problem. I texted Lily back. I'm tired of being edited into someone else's villain. She responded, you never were. They just needed you to be. That night, I turned my phone off completely. No airplane mode, no vibrate, just off. I slept the deepest I had in years. No dreams, no anxiety, no wondering what they were saying about me. Just quiet. A week passed. No calls, no texts, no emails, not even a vague passive-aggressive post on Facebook. It was like I'd vanished, like I'd finally been erased from the family photo album, just like I'd always expected. I should have felt devastated, or free, or something. But mostly, I just felt like I was floating through a vacuum, until Lily called. She usually texts, so seeing her name flash across my screen made my stomach drop. I answered on the third ring. Hey, she said gently. You sitting down? I sat. She found someone. I didn't respond. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. They found another match, she continued. One of her old college friends. Someone named Jessica. Apparently, she offered a few days ago, and the doctors just confirmed compatibility. They're scheduling the surgery next month. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. It didn't feel like relief. It didn't feel like pain either. It was more like static, like background noise suddenly fading out. She posted about it this morning, Lily added. A whole new photo shoot. IVs, flowers, inspirational quotes. You know how she does. Yeah, I said quietly. I know how she does. I pulled up her profile. There it was. A picture of her and this Jessica girl side by side in hospital gowns, holding hands like martyrs. The caption read, God always sends angels. I guess mine just didn't come from blood. I didn't feel anger. Not really. I felt something closer to amusement. Because even now, even with someone else literally offering to save her life, she couldn't help but turn it into another dig, another performance, another way to write me out of the script as the bitter, selfish sister who just didn't get it. The comments were nauseating. So proud of you, babe. Proof that chosen family is what really matters. She's lucky to have you, Jessica. The whole thing was curated like a redemption arc. Not hers, but mine, rewritten to center someone else. Lily texted me later that day. You okay? I replied, yeah, just watching it all play out like I was never part of it. She wrote back, that's because they never let you be. That part stuck with me, because it was true. My whole life, I was never a real character in their story. Just a utility. The person who kept the peace, held things together, filled in the gaps Marissa left behind. And now, even with my absence, they'd found someone else to cast in my role. Someone prettier, sweeter, more agreeable. Someone willing to bleed without asking why. But I didn't feel replaced. I felt spared. That night, I went for a long walk. No headphones, no distractions. Just me, the quiet, and the sound of my own breath. I stopped by a little coffee shop I used to pass every day but never had time for. I ordered a drink I'd never tried. I sat outside and let the sun hit my skin. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought that now that Marissa had her donor, now that she was getting the surgery, now that I was officially out of the picture, I could finally disappear without consequence. Quietly, peacefully, like a ghost fading after the haunting was done. But then she went viral. The post with her and Jessica holding hands in their hospital gowns got picked up by some local feel-good blog. They titled the article, Best Friends by Chance, Lifesavers by Choice. There was a picture of Marissa smiling under a quote in bold font. I asked my sister, but she wasn't ready. I understand. I really do. But Jessica didn't even hesitate. I stared at it on my screen in total silence. I understand. That's what she said publicly, that she understood. But privately, she made sure everyone saw me as the villain. She allowed the GoFundMe to frame me as selfish. She sent texts through other people, posted cryptic status updates, played the part of the poor abandoned sister. Now she wanted to look like the bigger person too. She wanted credit for forgiving me. Jessica was now the hero, the saint, the one who restored her faith in humanity. And me? I was the subplot, the failed sister whose absence paved the way for someone better to step in. I scrolled through the comments. Dozens of strangers writing things like, some people just aren't meant to be in your life. So glad you found your true sister. Blood doesn't make someone family. Loyalty does. God bless Jessica, the real MVP. Every time I saw the name Jessica, I felt like I was being erased. Not just replaced, rewritten. Like the role I'd played in Marissa's life had been retroactively deleted. Like all those years of covering for her, cleaning up after her, staying silent for the sake of peace. None of it mattered anymore. All because I said no once. It's funny how that works. How you can say yes for 30 years and still be branded selfish for saying no a single time. Lily sent me a voice memo later that night. She sounded angry. You know what pisses me off? You've been keeping that girl afloat your whole life. And now she gets to be the hero for pretending to forgive you? After publicly crucifying you for weeks? Nah, that's not forgiveness. That's PR. I smiled at that. Not because it made me feel better, but because it made me feel seen. I didn't respond right away. I just let her words sit with me. I think I was tired of responding to things. Tired of trying to correct the record. Tired of explaining why I didn't want to carve myself open for a family that only knew how to take. I didn't care about Jessica. Let her play the savior. Let her soak in the likes and heart emojis. I wasn't competing anymore. I didn't need to be the better sister. I just wanted to be free. 2 weeks after the article dropped, I got a text from my mom. She's out of surgery. Everything went great. Thought you'd want to know. No greeting. No hope you're well. Just an update. Like she was reading off a weather report or forwarding a shipment notification. I stared at the message for a long time. It wasn't that I didn't care about Marissa's health. I didn't want her to die. I didn't wish pain on her. That had never been the issue. The issue was how easily they could pretend like the last month hadn't happened. Like the smearing, the manipulation, the guilt. Like none of it mattered now that the crisis had passed. I didn't respond. An hour later, another text came in. This one longer. From my dad. We all make decisions we regret. What matters now is that Marissa's safe and recovering. It's time to heal. We're still family. Still family. That phrase made me laugh. Because where was that energy when they sat me down in their living room and told me I'd never be welcome again? Where was it when they let Marissa frame me as a heartless monster? Where was it when they needed someone to blame? It was never about family. It was about control. I didn't reply to him either. Instead, I let my silence say everything I didn't feel like repeating for the 100th time. Then, a few nights later, I got a voicemail. This time from Marissa. Her voice was raspy, weak, probably from the painkillers or the surgery. She spoke slowly, like every word cost her something, but not once did she apologize. I'm not mad at you, she said. I get it now. Surgery's not easy. Recovery sucks. I'm lucky Jessica stepped up. Not everyone has someone who will do that. There it was again, that passive-aggressive compassion. Not I'm sorry for what I did. Not I was wrong to pressure you, to involve the internet, to make you the scapegoat. Just, I'm not mad. As if her forgiveness was what I'd been waiting for. She ended the voicemail with, I hope one day you find peace with the choice you made. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. I sat on my couch, phone in my lap, letting those words ring in my ears. It was incredible, really. How even after everything, she found a way to cast herself as the gracious one. The one who rose above. She didn't apologize because that would mean admitting fault. And if there's one thing Marissa never learned to do, it's take accountability. I deleted the voicemail without saving it. I didn't need to keep it. I wasn't archiving closure. Because closure wasn't something she could give me. And it sure as hell wasn't hiding in some half-hearted voicemail from a hospital bed. I already had closure. It came the day I stopped trying to make them see me. I wasn't expecting to hear from them again. Not so soon anyway. But a week after Marissa's voicemail, Lily sent me a screenshot of a new family group chat that had been created without me. The name of the group was Family Strong. Tacky, yes, but also very on brand. There were 17 people in it. Aunts, uncles, cousins, Marissa's boyfriend, and somehow Jessica, her new donor. Apparently she was family now. Lily scrolled through and sent me snippets. I didn't ask her to, but I didn't tell her to stop either. Part of me wanted to know just how far they were willing to go in pretending I never existed. The messages were full of praise for Jessica. She's one of us now. So grateful for her gift. She gave Marissa the chance her own sister wouldn't. That last one hit harder than I expected. Not because it was cruel, I was used to that, but because it was so convenient. Like all of them had been waiting for a new narrative to cling to, a new golden girl to pour their love into. And Jessica? She fit the role perfectly. Pretty, gentle, generous, and most importantly, not me. Someone even changed the group's profile photo to the same image from the article. Jessica and Marissa smiling in their gowns, hands clasped, cheeks pressed together like they were childhood best friends. I couldn't stop staring at it. There was something surreal about being replaced so publicly and yet so quietly. There were no fireworks, no angry letters, no dramatic final confrontation, just this gentle slide out of the frame. I wondered if they noticed I was gone, or if it was just easier not to. Lily sent one more message. They've been talking about Christmas plans. Your name hasn't come up once. I didn't answer for a while, then I just texted back. It's fine, I wasn't going anyway. And I wasn't. Because I wasn't going to spend another year pretending to belong at a table that had always set a place for me out of obligation, not love. A table where I was expected to play nice, smile tight, ignore the way they forgot my birthday, my job promotion, my existence. I was done showing up where I wasn't missed. A few nights later, I opened a blank document on my laptop and titled it, Things I Owe Myself. I started writing slowly. Peace, boundaries, real love, a safe body, a future that isn't built on someone else's expectations. I kept the file open on my desktop for days. Every time I thought of something else, I added it. I didn't share it. I didn't post it. It wasn't for the internet. It wasn't even for closure. It was just for me. Proof that I was choosing something different. That I wasn't waiting to be chosen anymore. After that group chat surfaced, I didn't hear anything else from them for weeks. No sudden calls, no emergency texts, just silence. It was like the whole family exhaled and moved on without me, and honestly, I think that was the point. They weren't just cutting me out. They were rewriting the entire dynamic. Now there was no difficult sister, no confrontation, no ugly tension hanging in the air, just Marissa, her new sister, and a family who'd collectively agreed to forget the original one. I kept thinking about how easy it must have been for them. How convenient. They didn't have to say sorry. They didn't have to make amends. They didn't have to own anything they'd done. They just pivoted, took their story in a new direction, and left me behind in the first draft. That's when I started writing the letter. Dear family, you don't get to call me cold after turning my body into a solution. You don't get to shame me for saying no when you never once asked how I felt. You don't get to act like you loved me when your version of love has always been conditional. I was the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who didn't ask for much. And you took that as a green light to take everything. It kept going, longer than I expected. I wrote about the birthdays I spent alone, the holidays where my name was mentioned only when someone asked who wasn't there, the years of being the second option until it was convenient to make me the only one. You only remembered I existed when you needed something from me. You only called me brave when it served your narrative. You only called me selfish when I refused to bleed for you. I never printed the letter. I didn't mail it, but just writing it down made something in my chest loosen, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally exhaled. It was never about the kidney. That was just the final straw. The line I drew that you finally noticed. The truth is, I could have said yes, and it still wouldn't have been enough. Because after the surgery, after the recovery, after the thank you posts and public praise, you would have gone right back to forgetting I was there. That's the part that still hurts. Not the pressure, not the betrayal, but how easy it was for you to let me go when I stopped being useful. I saved the letter in a folder named Boundaries. Then I turned off my laptop, made myself tea, and watched the rain fall outside my window. And I told myself the truth out loud. I don't miss them. I miss the idea of them. I expected peace to feel loud. I thought it would arrive with a bang, like slamming a door shut or screaming into the void until something broke. But it didn't. It came slowly, quietly, like the tide pulling back just enough for you to breathe without noticing the weight was ever there. The first time I really noticed it was on a Thursday morning. I woke up late, no alarms, no reason to rush. I made coffee. I opened the windows. The sun poured in through the kitchen like it had been waiting patiently for me to notice it. There was no voice in my head telling me to check my phone, no lingering dread that I'd find another guilt-tripping message, no pit in my stomach, wondering what version of me they were painting in some group chat. Just stillness. I didn't know what to do with it at first. I think I had spent so long being reactive, waiting for the next blow, the next demand, the next emergency, that I'd forgotten what it felt like to just exist, without being needed, without being expected to fix something, without being the spare part waiting on a shelf, just in case. That night, I walked around my apartment and realized how much of it still looked like I was waiting for someone else to show up. An extra chair at the kitchen table, extra blankets folded for guests I never invited, photos on the fridge of people who hadn't called in years. So I cleared it. One frame at a time, one drawer at a time. I threw out old cards from holidays that felt more like obligations than celebrations. I took down the blurry picture of me and Marissa from the beach trip we took 5 years ago, the one where she complained the whole time and I paid for everything. I replaced it with a print I bought from a local artist. It's just a tree, stretching toward a full moon, but something about it feels like what I want now. Rooted, quiet, growing without needing to be seen. People say healing is a straight line. Others say it's a spiral. For me, it feels more like a slow unfurling, like a hand you've kept clenched for years, finally opening without realizing how tightly you were holding on. I haven't spoken to my parents. Marissa hasn't texted again. And for the first time, I'm not waiting for that to change. The silence doesn't scare me anymore. It comforts me, because I know what breaking that silence costs. And I'm not interested in paying that price just to feel included in a version of family that never really had room for me to begin with. There's power in choosing not to beg anymore. There's peace in knowing you didn't burn the bridge. You just stopped carrying water to it. And right now, that peace is enough. It had been almost a month since Marissa's surgery when I got the message. It wasn't from her. It wasn't from my parents. It was from Jessica. I almost didn't open it. I saw her name pop up in my message requests and just stared at it for a while. I wasn't angry. Not really. I didn't know her. She didn't owe me anything. But seeing her name there still felt strange, like the ghost of a conversation I never signed up for. Eventually, I tapped it open. Her message was short, thoughtful, I guess. Measured. Hey, I hope this isn't crossing a line. I know we don't know each other and I'm not trying to start anything. I just wanted you to know, I'm not here to replace anyone. I know the way things were handled wasn't fair to you. I'm sorry for any pain I've contributed to, even unintentionally. I stared at the screen for a long time. It was the first time since all of this started that anyone had acknowledged that what happened to me mattered, even if it was coming from someone who on paper had taken my place. Jessica wasn't the one who shamed me, manipulated me, or guilted me into a corner. She hadn't run a PR campaign. She hadn't sat in my parents' living room while they threatened to cut me off. She had just said yes. Something I wasn't willing to do, and she was allowed to say yes, just like I was allowed to say no. I didn't respond right away. I didn't want to say something polite just to be polite. I've done enough of that in my life to know it rarely leads anywhere good, so I waited a day, then two. Then finally I wrote back, I appreciate your message. You didn't do anything wrong. You were put in the middle of something you didn't cause. I'm glad Marissa is okay. I really mean that. I just hope she treats you better than she treated me. She responded a few hours later, I'm trying to keep my eyes open. That was all she said, and I respected her for that, because whether she was starting to see the truth or just trying to be decent, it was more than anyone in my own family had done, and in some weird way, it helped me close a door I didn't even realize was still cracked open. I didn't hear from her again, and that was fine. I didn't need to become friends. I didn't need updates. I didn't need anyone to redeem themselves on Marissa's behalf, but I did need someone, anyone, to look at the story that was being told about me and say, that's not the whole truth. That's all I'd ever wanted, really. Not revenge, not pity, just the truth spoken out loud, even once. And somehow the girl who gave up her kidney had the grace to say it. The rest of them never did. Sometimes it's realizing you don't need closure from people who were never open to you to begin with. And that night, I realized something I'd never said out loud until then. I'm free. Sometimes I think about writing a new letter. Not to send, not even to keep, just to write. To put down every version of myself that existed in that house. Every younger version of me that tried so hard to be seen. The girl who brought home perfect grades and stood quietly behind the camera while Marissa took the spotlight. The teenager who walked on eggshells. The adult who kept showing up out of guilt, out of hope, out of muscle memory. I don't think I ever hated them. Not even now. I just finally learned to stop needing people who only knew how to take. I still get updates sometimes. Not from my parents, not from Marissa, but from Lily, who's become something like a sister in a way Marissa never managed to be. She sends the occasional screenshot or voice memo. Apparently Marissa's already planning a podcast. Surviving the Impossible or something like that. Jessica's going to co-host. They're going to talk about found family and overcoming betrayal. The irony isn't lost on me, but I don't feel the need to correct them anymore. If people want to believe the narrative, the big, dramatic, stylized version, they can have it. Let Marissa be the phoenix who rose from abandonment. Let Jessica be the angel with a scalpel. Let my parents pretend their only crime was loving too much. I don't live in that story anymore. I've made my own. One where the quiet things matter. Where choosing yourself isn't selfish. Where no doesn't need to be defended like a courtroom argument. Where you don't have to bleed to be believed. I've started going to therapy. I say that lightly, but it's been harder than I expected. Not because I don't want to talk, but because I'm still learning how. So much of my life was spent swallowing things, minimizing things, pretending things didn't hurt when they did. I still flinch when someone raises their voice. I still second guess myself when I set boundaries. I still check the back of my mind for guilt, like it's a muscle twitch I can't control. But I'm learning. My therapist once asked, what's something you wish your family had told you? It took me 2 sessions to answer. When I finally did, I said that it's okay to be loved without earning it. She nodded. And I cried harder than I've cried in years, because that's what it all came down to. Not the kidney, not the fundraiser, not the party, or the posts, or the silence, but the deep, unspoken truth that for as long as I could remember, I thought I had to prove I was worth keeping. Now, I live how I want to live. And that, more than anything, is freedom.